IGDA.org. They have some great information, concrete statistics. They need to be refreshed. They need to be updated. This is where we're asking for your help. As a volunteer organization, we need you guys to step in and support us with research, with getting involved. It's great that we have these kind of proposals and documents and research reports. If, for example, you come across a research report that talks about the impact of an on-site daycare facility or the impact of consistently working 80-hour weeks, please reach out to me or to another board member to help get that in front of your fellow members. That's the second part of how we approach policy and advocacy, connection. It's one thing to hear from a potential employer, we're not a crunch studio, crunch, no way, who does crunch? It's another thing to actually hear from the employees what that studio is really like. It's one thing to hear from an employer, yeah, we'll be flexible, you know, we have core hours from 2 to 4, and as long as you're in here for those 2 hours, you can work whatever 8 hours you want. You need a way to back that up. You need a way to talk to people who've actually lived in the trenches. You know, it's one thing to hear, oh yeah, we'll credit every employee who's worked on the game. You need a way to find somebody to make sure that your employer or your manager or your colleague is being honest and upfront with you. So one of the things that we're going to continue to focus on is connecting people to continue this open and constructive dialogue. Now, I'll be honest with you, you're going to meet people with a lot of different opinions. I know from reading a lot of the posts, there are people who believe that no one should ever work more than a 40-hour work week. There are other people who believe that no one at their studio should ever work less than a 60-hour work week. Fundamentally, you're not always going to be able to change the opinions of everybody who you participate in a discussion with, but it's important to have that discussion because it may open your eyes to some viewpoints that you haven't considered. For example, if somebody decides to work at a studio or in a profession where they're expected to work 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks, and they do it for twice the salary, I think that's their individual decision. We're not going to step in and say to anyone, you can't make individual decisions on the kind of work environment you want. What we are going to do is empower them to make the right decision for themselves, educate them, connect them to their peers, so that they're making that decision with a full suite of information. The last and possibly most important part of our P&A efforts is A, advocacy. Because sometimes, in spite of our best efforts to arm our members with information and to connect them with their peers, there are times when they can't speak out, or they don't want to speak out, they're not comfortable doing so. I got a number of letters from people about the credits issue that came up last year saying, thank you for taking this on because I was afraid if I stepped up, my employer would retaliate against me. The IGDA has to be the voice of the game developer. If someone or some entity or a studio is acting in a way that is dishonest or illegal or misrepresents what they are telling the IGDA membership. That's why I believe that anybody who meets the standards proposed by our credits white paper, who is not credited on the game, is being disrespected and is essentially having their work stolen from them. It's dishonest, it's deceptive, and it's wrong. That's why I think if an employer comes in and says, we're not a crunch studio, and then expects you to work 60 hours a week for 10 months a year, that's a problem. That's dishonest and it's deceptive. It's also why I personally believe that if an employer says to you, you will be expected to work 60 hours plus here, and if you're not comfortable with that, don't take the job, and this is how you're going to be compensated for it, that it is your decision to make whether or not you want to take that job. And I shouldn't be up here telling you you can or you can't do it. I should be telling you the consequences. I should be arming you with a good perspective of what life is really like when you do that on a long-term basis. But no one should tell you what decisions you can or cannot make. So that got a little long-winded, because obviously I'm passionate about policy and advocacy. So I'm going to take a deep breath and talk about chapter support before Corey jumps up here